Tracy. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. I still struggle with anybody seeing me. Anyway, I just went to the pool again. I just love it. I love being at the pool because I'm getting that I can't look directly at the water or the people, but to have the people around me. I think somebody was just talking to me. I don't know. That was weird. I don't know. Yeah. Huh. Okay, I'm just gonna ignore it. That was weird. I think she was saying, "Why are you at the pool and you're sitting on a bench?" I don't know. I feel like saying, why are you talking to me? Anyway, okay, moving on. She totally threw me off. She totally threw me off. Okay, so I love being around the people. Um, Even though I can't look at them. And it's just like I can't leave the house, I don't go places. So this is a nice place where I can go and sit and be exposed to people. And I can make my choices to not trigger my symptoms. Let's use this example of this lady walking by and how it's stuck in my craw as like what freaking happens to us. One little interaction of a person that crosses my path who is questioning what I'm doing, and it's none of her business. And this is like, we all get to share this earth, and yet for some reason she has an opinion about what I'm doing with my plot of earth. But that's the way it is, right? I mean, I was so excited to like sit down on this shaded bench, and this bench happens to be it's in memoriam, yeah, of a boy, a young man in the neighborhood who took his life, and his mother uh, put this bench here that overlooks his garden, which is right behind me. It's a monarch butterfly garden, which he helped to plant. So I was feeling very peaceful, and I sat down and I was like, oh, this is a really great place for me to do my podcast. And then one lady walks by and is looking at me, and she's like flailing her arms at me like I'm doing something wrong. It's very strange, but it's also like par for the course for me how I let others impact me, you know? So I think the point is if this stuff bothers you, you're not alone because it absolutely happens to me too. And that isn't even the topic of the day. The topic, and maybe it is, maybe it'll tie into the topic unexpectedly. That's what happens in my life these days. But the topic is about believe and it will, like believing will come, not build it and it will come. I'm not talking about the movie, the baseball movie, but it's like whatever you feed yourself is what you're going to believe, right? I mean, if that lady walks by me and I keep telling myself, you look like an idiot sitting here beside the pool on this bench, or I keep thinking, what the heck was her problem? I should go back into the pool and find her. It's like I get to choose whatever mindset I'm gonna have. And I get to choose to let that go. I was walking Autumn when her first year that I had her, and she wasn't yet trained. Actually, I hadn't even looked into getting her trained. But her and I were walking, and this lady with her German Shepherd were walking by, and Autumn like lost her shit. Okay. She like just like attacked, like tried. I had her on a leash, and she didn't do anything, but she like just lunged and was like super, super nasty. She can sound really, really mean. And the lady was running by and she looked at me and she said, "You need to get your dog under control." And she just kept running. And I was like, that, that's what I was thinking in my head. And I just stopped. I mean, I stopped in my tracks and I turned around and I looked at the lady and she was like running out of sight. And she turned around right before she went around the corner. She turned around and looked at me. And I was just standing there facing her. Like, how dare you say that to me? Like, come say it to my face. What would I have done? What would I have done? Set my dog on her? No, her dog would have killed my dog. But it wasn't her business that my dog acted that way. Does she think that I wanted my dog to be nasty? No, clearly I didn't know what I was doing yet with my dog, and I didn't really realize the the extent to which my dog was aggressive at that point. And that was um, a learning experience for me. And I could have learned what I needed to learn without her injecting herself into my life. And that really bothers me. That shit really, really bothers me when somebody inserts themselves into my life because it's none of their business, what I'm doing. So how do you let something like that go? It's whatever I feed myself. See, it is part of the topic today. Whatever I feed myself is what I'm going to believe. I spent the rest of that time walking my dog crying. I was crying because I felt like I wasn't a good dog owner. I felt like I got a defective dog. I felt sorry for myself because one thing that that lady did not know when she decided to insert herself into my life was that I had just spent 13 years with an aggressive dog. And if she knew that and how upset I was, I don't know that she would have said it. Maybe she would have said it, but maybe she could have stopped and given me some tips on how to train my dog, if she's so perfect at it. Um, but I spent the rest of that walk and days following that, weeks following that, feeling like I wasn't a good dog owner. I didn't know what I was doing. I was waiting to run across this lady again. Um, maybe she would say something to me again, or maybe I would be so pissed off and she'd run across me at the wrong minute and I would say something to her. It was consuming me. Every time I went on a walk, it consumed me. And I'm not gonna lie, I sit here and I wait for that lady to come back out, And why? Why? It's not my problem, Everybody is sick in some way, and she just displayed her sickness to me, you know? And and it's my job to let it go. That's what it is. It's my job to let it go. And what I was thinking of this morning with the relation to this topic of what I feed myself is what I'm going to believe. I was thinking about how for so long I only listened to what I wanted to hear because I couldn't handle the truth, just like the movie. So I only fed myself what I wanted to hear. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just feeding yourself the good and what you want to believe. What I'm talking about is feeding yourself the healing after you hear the stuff that you don't want to hear, not the stuff you need to hear, but or what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. And the lessons that come from feeding yourself the stuff that you need to hear, being around people who are going to enter into a fellowship with you and be a healing relationship, not just for you, but for them as well, because I learn and become and believe based on how I try to help other people as well. So, um, I have an interesting story, but I'll get to that in a second. Um, what I need to do, is when I run into situations like that where I just sit down and somebody gets in my business, I need to remember that even in those times, there's still my higher power is still with me. He's still sitting here on this bench with me and he's paying attention. Um, he's paying attention when I make the right decisions and he's paying attention when I make the wrong decisions. And if I continue to keep myself open to listening and being present and being connected through doing things like my podcast, doing things like going to my morning meetings. This morning, so I've been listening to a church um, worship that is in the community that we're planning on moving to because I'm hoping that I can just get more familiar with what it's like there. And that's another way that I try to feed myself the stuff that I want to believe, you know? My psychiatrist says to me whenever I bring up things like listening to the Bible or listening to this worship and stuff like that, and reading my signs book, I'm like, I just want to believe. I want to believe, And so that's what I'm choosing to do. And she always responds with, why not? Right? Why not? And that's exactly right. I'll tell you why not. Why not? Because if I don't, I sink into a terrible, terrible place in my it's like I fall into my own dark place inside myself. And that's why I have to do it. That's why I have to feed myself the things that I want to believe in. And as I do that, I continue to grow and an awareness of um of who I want to be, of how I want to treat people, and an awareness of like the space that I take up on this earth, my role as a human being among other human beings. And all it takes is for me to keep plugging into these different resources that I have. And there's so many, it's up to me. It's up to us to choose to plug in. Somebody said in my morning meeting this morning that he's like, this meeting is like me plugging into the wall socket. And that's what fuels my faith and my belief and my all of the good stuff. And then I continue to like expand on that in my mind as like, yeah, the longer I plug in, the longer my battery is charged and can get me through the day, Um, I was thinking this morning also that saying you are what you eat. I almost I almost ate a fly. Um, that was timing. That's what that was. Um, but in the same way, we are what we believe what we feed ourselves. That's what I'm comparing it to. We are what you eat. So, where do I want to allow my consciousness to exist today? And I don't want my consciousness to get stuck to that lady who just entered into my business and questioned why I'm sitting on this beautiful bench. And you know what? You know what I realized after sitting here and talking about it? I realized that I have a gift to sit here under this beautiful tree. Look, I'm going to show you. I don't usually do this, but I'm sitting under this beautiful tree and I'm sitting in front of this beautiful monarch garden and I'm taking space out to be, to improve me, to grow, to talk about what's going on inside of me. And that's something that not a lot of people do. I'm recognizing that more and more that there aren't a lot of us that sit down and do this and just spend time with ourselves and just breathe. And I almost have a lump in my throat because I just realized how to let that go, how to let what that lady said to me go. Um, and it's by recognizing the gift that I have, the gift that I've been given, to be able to make space for times like this. So that's what I have a story for you, right? What was the story? Um, I wrote it down. Oh, so I mentioned to you that we're moving and we're waiting for the perfect house to come on the market. And I think I also mentioned to you that I decided like on Wednesday night that I was going to pray and I was going to pray for something, which is something I never do. I'm usually just full of gratitude and thank God for my sobriety and all of that good stuff. Well, Wednesday night I went to bed and I prayed that, okay, God, I'm going to just this one time, I'm going to ask for something and we're going to see what's happening because I'm doing so well with all these signs, right? So I'm like, okay, well, let's see if God will answer. So I'm like, okay, I pray that tomorrow's come on the market. I'm like, okay, tomorrow I want our dream home to come on the market. And um, then I followed up with all my normal gratefuls and I went to sleep. So then I told you guys that the next morning my sobriety meeting was about time uh timing is everything, right? Okay, so yesterday, my husband and I were talking about the stock market. Actually, we were talking about the Fed um, lowering interest rates, and um, and he said, Rachel, if interest rates actually decrease, which hopefully they will, they should be. We're a little late with that, just saying. Um, if they decrease, then we can actually afford the dream home, the one that he toured like a month ago and we looked at like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? That would be like a dream. It's like on the water and it's freaking amazing. It's ridiculous for two people that are planning on retiring to live in it, but it's beautiful and it would be a dream come true. He's like, if interest rates were to lower, we could actually afford that house. And I was like, oh, and the first thing that came to my mind, people, timing is everything, right? Timing is everything. So, what it told me is be patient. Just continue to be patient. Even if that doesn't happen, that's not my point. My point is that there is the opportunity for a better outcome that is better than what I planned. And that has been apparent in my life, and it's never going to stop. You know, I can think that I've got, as much as I've told you guys, like in stroke recovery, that I'm like, oh, life hasn't gone as I planned. And well, now my thinker is and my wanter is coming up with a new plan. It's always coming up with a new plan. And that plan is I want to get a house as soon as possible. I want to be able to go to the beach, not the neighborhood pool. It's almost like the little brat inside of me. And I need to remember there could always be a better plan for me. timing is everything. So I thought that that was a really cool realization today. So I'm going to stop there and really grateful to have had this moment to just come to peace with a lot of stuff. I've just been, I think my brain's been moving and I finally stopped my body and now my brain has ceased, at least for the moment. So I'm going to get my stuff together and walk on home. And I think we're going to have kebabs tonight, kebabs and some rice, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be delicious. And thanks for joining me, and I will talk to you tomorrow.